Call to order the Rolesville Board of Commissioners workshop session, September the 20th, 2022. And we got several items on here. Before I start, I would just like to welcome everybody that's here, everybody that's watching on online. Appreciate your interest in participating in some things that's going on in town. Basically, what we'll be working on is some items that we're trying to research and learn more about that will be coming up on future agendas and future decisions made. So I see we got 4 items in a closed session planned for tonight. So the first one, we'll get started. Kelly, unless you got something you want to add, you got anything? Anybody got any board, anything to add before we get started?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll get started, right? Item 1, resolution authorizing the Public Works Facility Project and solicitation of bids for construction and finance. And I think Mr. Marsh will kind of start that one off. Welcome.
Good to be here, y'all. I hope y'all are doing well.
Yes.
I have the honor to come before you to talk to you about our new Public Works facility that has been in the process of being designed for some time now. I will have a... Hello? Check. Do I need to speak into this in order for people online to hear, or can they?
A taller mic, apparently.
And Mark, who will be coming up next, he's actually taller than me. And so we will all be dealing with this one.
City and heights.
So in May 2021, the town had moved forward with the purchase of some property, about 15 acres of land, and purchased it from DOT. And as you know, it's at that intersection of East Young and the 401 bypass. And so that's been a place that we have begun doing work there, and we came before you, through consent agenda, had removed the barn out there and had done some pre-work to the area. And so that Public Works facility, the plans for the Public Works facility is something that we've been looking forward to for a while, to give us a place to not only store the equipment we've had to purchase when it comes to continuing to serve and scale our services to our Rolesville residents, but also a place that we can call home for our Public Works department and a lot of their programs and such. And so currently they're working through out of a temporary place, and it is very, very small, and is honestly not up to par for the work that they do. And also one thing that we're struggling with right now is storing some of the equipment that we have purchased. Expensive equipment that we've purchased, and so things like our street sweeper. And so those things are recommended to be stored inside, away from the elements, and particularly as we enter, some of these stormy seasons and also this general rain and such. And so the new Public Works facility is something that we think will be a great asset to our services and also to the community. Mark with IBI Group has been working with us for about a year and a half, and he's been championing the design work for the facility for us. And he's come before you, I want to say twice before, with different iterations. And so this will be the presentation tonight. He'll be updating us on the costs, updating us on the plans and the different feedback that he's received. We have received from you all and from our research over these last few months, and then also presenting with us a tentative construction schedule and what that looks like to proceed. There, as you know, as you were informed ahead of this meeting, there has been some different updates to it, the most important and somewhat significant of which is the price. And we've seen that happen with a lot of projects that we're taking to construction, and that has been something that's happening across the board. Is it a result of the pandemic? Yes, but it's also a result of supply chain, workers, all these different things impacting the construction industry and the availability of goods and just the skyrocketing of all of the above. And so you'll see an updated cost of the facility in there, and that's something that I wanted to highlight. And so right now, I will turn it over to Mark, and he'll come up if you don't have any questions or general questions. And he'll be walking you through a presentation, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions as you may have them.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Eric. Good evening to the board.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you for having me. Again, Mark Humany with IBI Group Architects and Engineers here in Raleigh. Well, over there in Raleigh, down the road. Okay, so as Eric mentioned, I've got this presentation. So, oops, let me go through here, kind of just giving an update on the overall project status. Essentially, we've got all the approvals in place, and we have the construction documents ready for bid. Now, one exception is we are still waiting on Wake County Stormwater to sign off. We expect that this Friday. We've received all of the paperwork that we've been looking for, that they had been asking for. The last piece of which was the buffer determination, finding that there are no, in fact, jurisdictional waters on this property. Not that we were going to impact the pond in any event, but they still wanted that piece of paper. We got that about a week or so ago, sent it off to them. So the expectation is that by the end of this week, we'll have firm sign off from Wake County, and then that would lead to the TRC final approval immediately thereafter. We do not expect any commentary at this point that would materially affect the documents and the scope of the work. So with that, we're actually prepared to go to bid immediately, depending on the board's findings today, or we could wait till maybe next week just to make sure that we've given everybody the proper time to sign off on the site plans. We took the final professional cost estimate a couple of weeks back. Building permit's been submitted, reviewed, and approved. There were very few comments on the building itself. Really, all the process had been related to the site development. The plat has been recorded for the town's behalf. So that's the overall update. The annexation and zoning process actually is complete. That first line item, it was ongoing, but it is now complete. I've been updated on that. Brief history of the project or the property itself, for those of you who don't yet know, it's that property right there on the corner of 401 and East Young Street. IBI Group, along with Withers Ravenel Civil Engineers, who are consultant to us, did a preliminary study of this property last year and found that it was very suitable for this type of public works facility development. I want to emphasize that there are no hazardous or toxic materials being housed at this property. The impact on the traffic is anticipated to be extremely minor. Your fleet consists of less than 10 vehicles, so there's really not a whole lot of vehicular traffic associated with this type of development, so we don't expect any significant impact at that intersection. The property itself is about 15 acres. It's relatively flat, which is perfect for this type of public works facility. Again, the pond we're not touching. It's there already. Nothing jurisdictional, no wetlands that were found. The utilities were immediately available in the street, and there's a tree buffer along the 401 edge. We're preserving all of the trees and actually augmenting that buffer as a visual buffer around the property and adding a planted screen. I'm not sure exactly. Adding a planted screen, I guess it really doesn't work on this, up against the backside of what are now zoned as residential properties. Those are those three properties along East Young, which we understand will eventually potentially become commercial properties. The project is that white building. It's approximately 10,000 square foot footprint. There's a storage mezzanine inside of it, which I'll show you in just a minute. That brings the total square footage up to a little over 12,100 square feet. We're designed the building to be expandable. So you see that gray area labeled future expansion off the back side. That is a future expansion based on all our interviews with town staff as to what the expected needs are, say 10 years down the road. We've identified or kind of set up the whole design to allow for that expansion to cater to the next 10 years worth of needs. We're staying within or less than 12% built upon area that helped us navigate through some of the watershed overlay issues early on in the process. This was the tabulation of the space needs that we initially had targeted about 5 years out for the year 2026. Again, the square footage actually is a little bit larger than what's shown here. We're about 9,700 square feet on the ground floor and about 26, maybe 2,500 square feet on the mezzanine. As of the time of this programming, we had about 7 full-time staff who were intending to be out here. The project has one superintendent's office. Otherwise, it's open crew rooms. It'll service equipment and repair and regular maintenance. There's workshops in here. There's a place to take care of lawnmower equipment, place to park the street sweeper and other expensive equipment during inclement weather and freezing temperatures. And there's indoor storage available as well. I would say this project has been designed to be exceedingly efficient. We've kind of distilled it to its essence. There's really nothing extraneous in this project whatsoever. It's designed really just to be efficient on a daily basis. Unfortunately, the graphics are not as sharp as I would have liked, but on the right-hand side of the screen is the overall floor plan of the building, and you see sort of some things happening in the lower left-hand corner. That's an office area. Everything else outside of that corner space is just open, concrete, high bay space. This is a pre-engineered metal building, so I'll show you an image of it in 3 dimensions in a minute. But picture one large rectangular metal building. You're seeing off to the immediate right that expansion area that we've already planned for to accommodate some additional storage bays. The bays furthest to the right within the building are set up for some light vehicular maintenance, such as changing oils, changing windshield washers, doing very light duty type work because the town subcontracts all that effort out. On the upper left-hand side of the plan are some workshops and a street sweeper parking bay. And then in the office area, again, there's a superintendent's office in the corner. There's restrooms, locker room, a small storage area, and just an open area for a couple of workstations for field crew and field staff, and a small break area. And then sitting over the top of the office area is that mezzanine. So this is a steel-framed mezzanine with a concrete floor, and we're putting our mechanical and electrical equipment on top of that mezzanine, and that mezzanine is also available for additional town storage. This is a cross-section through the building, so just giving you an idea of the overall height. It's about a 24-foot high building at its eave, and you can see that cross-section showing the office area underneath the mezzanine. I think the last time I was here presenting, we had a choice of colors. I mentioned that these types of buildings are pre-engineered, pre-manufactured in many ways, and when you're buying something like this, they come in just like buying a car. You know, here's the standard range of colors. You pick which one you want. Blue is a standard across every manufacturer. We showed, I think, a red barn or a barn red type color. I think we showed sort of a brownish color. The town liked the blue, and so that's what we've set it up with. So there's just an awning over the main entrance to give it a little bit of visual identification. The building is set very far back from East Young, so it's not going to be highly visible from any particular viewpoint from the public. Unless there's any questions on the building itself, I'll just go over the schedule and the cost as a way of wrapping up. So we are looking for approval to bid tonight. The way we see this playing out is that we would be bidding throughout October. In November, I believe we could be negotiating the construction contract award and ready to start sometime in December. Latest would be first of next year. And we're predicting about a 10-month construction schedule. So moving in sometime October of next year.
I'm sorry, can you go back for a second? So it said construction starts in December of 2023.
I'm sorry,
When
December
October?
22.
Oh, okay.
Typo. I'll fix that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, thank you for catching that.
The engineering is complete, and you did engineering, so it's just a matter of hiring somebody to construct it, is that right? Or do they,
Correct.
they gonna do some engineering as they construct it, or?
No, the engineering is done. The design and the engineering is done. I mean, there is some work to be done with what we call pre-engineered metal buildings. That's a little bit of a turnkey type building process where the company that is hired through the competitive bidding will do the final engineering of the metal building itself.
Okay.
But in the traditional sense, all the design work, all the documents, the plans and the specifications are completed.
So when it goes out to bid, will it have everything with it, even the site, the landscaping, all that will be,
Yes.
it won't be just a company that just puts buildings up? Then it'll be
No,
like a kind
no.
of a general contractor type thing?
It'll be a general contractor who will be retained to do not just the building, but the entire site development and the utilities. It could be that that general contractor hires a metal building company as a subcontractor. It could be one of the larger general contractors that already has a program established with a pre-engineered metal building company so they can do it themselves and they will sub out all the site work. But it should be one single prime bid to cover the entire project.
Right.
What was the total duration for construction again?
We're estimating 10 months.
Okay.
That assumes that materials are available along traditional timelines. That's not a safe assumption to make
No.
at this point. Pre-engineered metal buildings can be back ordered by some amount of time. It ultimately comes down to when this goes to bid and what the market is like. It's hard to make a prediction until you actually are ready to go, pull the trigger and say, okay, we're ready to bid, who's interested? And then we find out.
Okay. Thank you.
And this total price, sir, is not including the projection as the town grows to where we may end up expanding, right?
No, it does not include the projection to the 2030 and beyond. No, it doesn't have that expansion area. We tried to design about 5-6 years worth of growth into it from day one,
Okay.
but not 10 plus years. What we are doing and what is in the cost is immediately adjacent to the building where we anticipate that building expanding is we are preparing the grade and the base so that it's flat and level. It's got a stone base on it so that all you would have to do, say 10 years from now, blade off that surface, maybe recompact it, and you're ready to go to pour a slab and expand the building on top of it. So there's a little bit of the cost is included, but it's not the building itself.
Correct. Thank you.
So as far as costs go, this is based on bidding the project next month. Escalation on a monthly basis has been significant over the last 12 months. I mean, it's been anywhere from 1.5% per month. And so that's why I put that qualifier in there. If we say, hey, let's bid this in January, we'd have to build in further escalation. Total construction costs that we are estimating is $3,990,000. That breaks down by building costs of about $2.375 million, with a site cost at about $1,615,000. I heard the board talking earlier about cost per square foot. In a project like this, it's a relatively small building. The cost per square foot of the building is up at about $196 a square foot. The site cost here, it's a very large site considering the building itself. And so that cost is about $134 per square foot of building. I tend to look at site cost per acre. It's about $108,000 per acre, which is relatively little when you talk about site development cost per acre. But total all in, this is about coming in about $330 per square foot of building itself. And again, that's based on about a 12,100 square foot building. We have bid alternates in the project because the market is quite unstable. There's a number of things in here that perhaps can be added later at the town's discretion when the budgets are available. We identified these 6 items here. They total approximately $200,000. They're not listed in any particular priority, but we had some interior chain link partitioning to separate a sweeper bay from a workshop, and maybe identify or create some cages for storage of tools and other equipment that just doesn't want to walk away. We've got an upgrade on the flooring. Right now we just have a vinyl, relatively inexpensive vinyl floor throughout the office area. One of the things that we will do in a facility like this, if the money's available, is upgrade from vinyl to like an epoxy resin floor. It's more durable. It's not fancy, but it is durable, long-lasting, and will outlast the vinyl tile by a long shot. I do believe, based on very recent pricing, that $4,000 is probably a little bit too low in terms of what the real cost difference is going to be. I suspect it could be a little more like $8,000 between those two. But moving on, prismatic skylights. So we've got, I think, 6 skylights set up in the roof that, based on what we've done with these in the past, would allow the interior of the building, not the office area, but the whole rest of the building to be perfectly functional on most sunny days without any need for artificial lighting. The prismatic aspect of it is it's not clear. If any of you have skylights in your home where you can look up and you can see the birds, this is not it. It's, they have these in Costco's and Walmart's. If you look up, you can tell it's daylight, but it's basically a prism and it scatters the light. So it's diffused and very bright throughout the space.
So how does that affect heating and air conditioning costs? I'm just thinking about for the offices.
Yeah, even though this is a triple glazed insulated unit, it's not going to have the same level of insulation that the roof will. So you can consider that there's 6 roughly 5-foot by 5-foot areas that have less insulation. This building has got heat in it. It doesn't have air conditioning except within the office. So because it's not a populated space, with the exception of people who are maybe working in the workshop, I don't know that it's going to have a great financial impact from an energy cost, because I don't think you're going to be dumping that much heat into it. But yes, it does lessen the overall insulation value of the roof.
But the prism lighting, you're saying, will help with the equipment as far as
Well, you
Giving
could
it natural
operate
light.
without any artificial lighting.
artificial light? Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I have one other question about staffing needs. You indicated 7 full-time, or there's indicated here 7 full-time staff, and that's through 2026, seeing as though we're just in 2022. And this may be a question for broader staff. So we don't anticipate any growth before 2026 in Public Works? That seems very super duper conservative.
Well, we've got room for 7 more staff in here. So when we did the programming a year ago, there were 7 staff. We've designed the facility for 5 years down the road to handle 14 staff.
14, okay, I saw
Right.
7. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, but we are planning for more staff.
Okay.
That's part of the community service survey that we're going to be rolling out as well, but then also our internal assessment of our systems. It's something we're going through right now, myself and Isaac, just chatting through what we see as being the needs. And so we're tracking a lot of our requests a lot closer, and also our solid waste requests as well. We're looking more so really into the data. And so we know that we need more bodies, we know that we need more people, human assets, but now it's just determining what would be the next one. And so will that be someone who specializes in grounds, or will it be someone who can come and be a crew leader around keeping our right-of-ways clear?
Gotcha.
Or would it be someone, do we need to invest in pulling in someone who has some experience with concrete, so just thinking about the needs. And so we know that we need more people, but it's just determining what those new additions to the team will be specializing in.
So this is looking at 14, not just 7. I'm just making
Yes.
sure I'm clear, right?
The building's built for 14, and 7 is what we would see as being the next step, the
Oh.
next immediate step.
I got you. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
And naturally, it's built for all genders, right? I mean, here to support?
Yes, we pay a particular attention to that. And so you'll see that it will have a female space, and then also we'll have
Restrooms and showers you're
restrooms and
referring?
showers as
Yes.
well, and then it'll be both. And that's something that if you go into any outdated public works facility or emergency management facility, they just don't cater to that. And so that's something we're particularly intentional about with this design.
We did start out with simply a single unisex restroom, and that's going back a year or so. But as we continue to engage with the town, with Kelly, with Eric, it became clear that having equal separate facilities would be appropriate here. So that's what we have. There's a
Great.
full restroom and shower for each.
Great.
Can I clarify, what is an interior chain link partition?
I'm sorry.
What is an interior chain link partition?
It's chain link fence. It just happens to be on the inside of a building.
Where is that going?
It would separate.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Well, you can picture a chain link fence, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they can, whether it's inside or outside, it's the same thing. So this subdivision right here and these two rectangles are just chain link that would keep tools belonging to one department from getting mixed up with tools belonging to maybe a different department, or maybe it's a safe place to charge your batteries for tools and such.
So it's like a cage, or it's just fenced?
Yeah, cage
We-
makes
we-
sense.
we
You can
would-
think of it as a cage.
In layman's term, we would say it's a grab it from the cage. And so
Cage,
like, hey,
okay.
can you grab some tools from the cage? Can you
Okay,
grab a
gotcha.
wrench
Oh,
from the
thank you.
cage?
I just never seen it.
And what it
written
does
on
is, it's a safety thing as well.
Yeah.
And so if someone's slinging something in it, it doesn't skip across a room. And it also visually, it says this is the work area. And that's something that is good when it comes to safety, so that you know that when you pass into this threshold, as we start doing more things within Public Works, handling maybe, might be welding something or what have you, then it'll be a dedicated space or a workshop with that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, the chain link is simply the least expensive way to separate spaces. That's all. I mean, there are more expensive wire mesh partitions that are, perhaps more common. But again, we're trying to keep this down to the essentials.
Yeah, we like it. We're good. I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure I knew.
Will we have any storage of like welding gases or anything else right now at that facility?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I mean, we would just have to put like something in there, like a framework or something, just to hold those up and chain them up, but,
Building could be used for welding. There's nothing special about it right now, other than what Eric mentioned about there's an area you can kind of cordon off for that. and
Okay.
Introduce a portable welding arm that can exhaust it straight out, set up a bench. That's not in this budget, though.
okay, that's fine.
Just to go through the rest of the alternates, adding trench drains. We have trench drains across the overhead doors where the one bay is that they anticipate bringing in either riding mowers, zero turns, and/or the pickup trucks. The other overhead garage doors, we don't have anything in the base bid, but there's a bid alternate to add trench drains at every one of those other overhead doors for stormwater control. As things come in that may be dripping because they just come in and out of the rain. Having a fixed standby generator is an addition. Right now, the building is set up with what they call a tap box, which means that any of the town's mobile generators could be parked outside, connected to the tap box on the outside of the building, and you can run the building on emergency power that way. If you wanted to dispense with the mobile generator and just have a fixed standby generator sitting outside, that's what this item is for. The last item is adding lightning protection. Lightning protection is not a code requirement. In the 30-plus years I've been doing this, I've only wished I'd had lightning protection in one facility. We've never could figure out exactly why that facility for the city of Raleigh was susceptible to damage from lightning strikes. The lightning never actually struck the building or the grounds, but just the electricity in the air had a habit of frying some low voltage systems throughout the building. Never had it on any other facility. So we put it in here as a bid alternate. I'd consider it maybe a belt and suspenders insurance package if it's desired. We always try to give you the big picture. Total construction costs usually are about 80%, 83% of any given total project budget. There are everything we call soft costs. There's the cost of buying furniture, buying computer systems, moving, the surveying, design fees, engineering fees, permits, things like that. We've estimated approximately a little over $500,000 for that. Telecom systems, audiovisual systems, security systems. So that's the other part of this. So I refer to that as soft costs. The total without the alternates is a little north of $4.5 million based on our recent projections. If you were to take all of the alternates, we're at about $4.75 million or $4.75 million. And I think that was the last slide.
And that's today's dollars? Because you kept referencing last year.
Yes, this estimate was just done in late August, early September,
Okay.
with escalation through this month with the idea of bidding in October.
That's including site costs too, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, the site costs are the number there at the top, the 1.615. And that includes the sewer, force main sewer going out down the driveway, out into the right-of-way across the street, and connecting to the city of Raleigh sewer system.
And it'd be a pump system, I understand?
Yes.
Are there generally grants or anything available for communities building such?
I believe so, but I would defer to Kelly and Eric on that.
Kelly, Eric,
Yes.
are we working on that?
Yes, so we partnered with TJ Cog. That's one of the things that's on our priority. They asked us for the different projects.
Oh, good.
And in the past, I've seen where you can get grants for anything from emergency systems, generators, even furniture, when it comes to outfitting, since it will be our first public works facility.
Good.
And we are growing so fast. So there is a narrative there that will make us very marketable for grant funds.
And we have to have an approved process before you can apply for that, or are you in the process?
Correct. Most grants
Gotcha.
will require you to have an approved project
Gotcha.
in the works or a funded project to be able to get grant funds to be able to match against.
Awesome. Thank you.
Question. I got a couple of questions, I think. How competitive is bidding today? I mean, what do you expect to see? Just 2 bidders or 12 bidders? What's your experience on that, on a building or project this size?
Well, experience just going back in the last few months, I expect it will be a situation where I will be on the phone trying to get bidders to bid the project. Recently attempted to take bids in a town of Selma project. Couldn't get anybody. Well, there's one contractor out of Zebulon who tells me they'll bid any project that I do because they like working with us. No, it's not a competitive environment currently. There's no telling when it will turn to that. You know, we could say, well, what's it going to be like end of the year? What's it going to be like first of next year? Anybody who knows, I'd like to meet that person. But it's, as Eric alluded to, there's inflation. The COVID pandemic really impacted worldwide global supply chain of everything. Plus, it actually obviously impacted people. The workforce has been reduced significantly. So when I was calling potential bidders for projects, I was hearing the same thing over and over again, is we just don't have staff to do the work. We'd love to, but we can't right now. The little bit that we've already got is going to take us, through the end of the year. So this project being a brand new project, being relatively simple, a pre-engineered metal building, I think is going to be more successful than some of the other projects we've bid over the last 6 months, which tended to be renovation projects, which are always more complex and more iffy to a contractor and a bidder as to, well, am I going to be able to make money on this or not? This is a clean project. We might have better luck. So That's my understanding of the current bid market.
Well, that's lovely.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. That's the way it is right now. And then I also wanted to put in there that I did make a few calls about pre-engineered buildings because the company I work for doesn't always work with those, but sometimes do. And from last year to this year, at least a 50 to 75% increase in price for them. So just because some people can right now.
The
So
lead times are
Yeah.
significantly greater
Right.
than they used to be.
Any other questions from the board?
If you're ready to hear from Amy, she'll talk to you about how we might fund this, and then once you get concluded on that, we'd like to hear from you whether you're ready to proceed.
Thank you, Mark and Eric.
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good presentation. Appreciate the work you put in.
It's like I'm just the messenger.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. I'm going to move the microphone towards me down. I'm not as tall as the last two presenters. So this project, the Public Works Facility, was included in your CIP model that you adopted earlier this year. It was included in the model as a $3,000, excuse me, boy, wouldn't that be nice? $3 million project. That CIP model did play out what it would cost to fully debt finance that $3 million. The assumptions made were that it would be a 15-year installment finance at a 4% interest rate. So if things had stayed the same, then that would be where we are with that.
That $3 million, did it include the site, purchase of the site, or?
It was intended to be, yes, the complete facility. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the site work.
No, the
Not
site,
the-
the purchase of the land. It was $3 million.
That was in addition to the land.
Right,
This
okay.
did not, the $3 million did not include the purchase
And I
of the
think,
land.
I think what we saw included the purchase of the land, or did it not?
You mean what you just saw? No, that did not
That was
include the
site
cost.
preparation. Okay.
Yes.
I got you.
This is
right.
free and clear, we own the site.
Got you.
Yep. So it was part of your model. Obviously you have some options since the cost is higher than what was anticipated in the model, which would range from, going ahead and financing the $3 million and then paying for the difference as out of cash, or financing the entire facility. So after speaking with our financial advisor, staff does recommend that you proceed with the original plan, which was to finance the entire project, even though the costs are higher. And there's a few reasons for this. The primary reason being that this is an excellent capital project for debt installment finance. It has a clear asset that has value to a potential lender. Other projects that are in CIPs sometimes don't lend themselves very well to debt finance. For instance, a sidewalk, you typically would not finance a sidewalk. You typically aren't going to finance site work, preparation work. That's standalone site work that doesn't go with the building immediately. You're not going to finance a road, and at least not through installment finance. Bonds are a different matter, but not through installment finance like we're talking here. So this project is perfectly suited for that type of capital finance model. And then, also when you're looking at interest rates, obviously, as we all know, they've gone up recently. And as far as the indications from the Fed are that we're expecting interest rates to continue to go up for the foreseeable future. So there's no strategic benefit to you for delaying financing until a later date, given what we see coming in the future. And then finally, the town is in a good financial position to be able to repay the debt, even if it's at this higher level. So that is the staff's recommendation to pursue finance for the entire amount. I believe the resolution that's before you tonight that as Mark mentioned earlier, where we're seeking approval to seek those bids, that resolution also asked for the permission to proceed to get the installment finance bids. I believe it has been updated to reflect the full 4.75 million figure. So moving on to the installment finance itself, just briefly, this is a summary of what would be needed to do that. So similar to the construction bids, immediately following this meeting, should you decide to proceed, we would need to go out and start seeking bids for that financing. The issue here is that this debt finance would have to be approved by the local government commission prior to being able to proceed. So their meeting is on December 6th, same day as your meeting, but theirs is that afternoon, yours is in the evening. So we would be seeking LGC approval to take out this debt, and in order to meet the requirements for that meeting, we have to submit the application a month in advance, which means you would have to hold a public hearing and have all of your bids for the financing in hand for your November 1st meeting. So we're kind of working from that LGC meeting date and working backward to get this schedule put together. So basically, we would be looking for, if you proceed tonight, a public hearing on November 1st, and then approval of any financing on December 6th, at which point we could proceed on, bids would be in on construction as well as finance. Questions?
So this financing schedule does not impact the timing that Mark mentioned earlier about the price kind of lock, I'm putting a quote on lock, or does it?
I believe it would be up to the town as to whether to proceed to bid in advance of the public hearing on November 1 and securing the financing. But I think you could proceed to bid, you could get the bids and just not award.
Until we get the
Until you
financing. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, they're very, this is the schedule, you have to have them run together.
I got you. I just was wondering if by the time we got to that date, it would be even higher. That was what my concern was. But it shouldn't be.
Could be,
Not if we put the bid out.
especially interest rates are going up. They're meeting on it this week, I think, right?
I think they meet tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So this 4% could be,
Yeah, so I did reach out to our financial advisor just to get some ideas on what current rates have been recently. And for a 15-year note, they range anywhere from 3% to 4%, you know, high bid, low bid. So the lower bids have been, for a 15-year, lower bids have been right around the 3 or just above.
fits.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
So I know Davenport does a really good job understanding what the LGC looks for and needs and stuff. Do they see any issues on the December 6th, you know, any cautions at this point in time, or?
No, and in fact, I think I have a slide here. So if you remember, I don't want to go through this whole slide. The important part is on the far right. If you remember when I gave the financial update at the last meeting, I mentioned that we have a significant increase in the amount of fund balance for the general fund, more than we had expected last year, a lot of it due to those extra sales tax monies. So when you look at that fund balance that's available, the town is in a very good position financially to back this debt.
So it's just a matter of approval, in your opinion and Davenport's opinion, both probably.
Yeah, I don't think we're foreseeing any issues from the LGC. I mean, again, and it's this fund balance, it's the continued growth of the community. And Wake County itself has some economic resilience,
Right.
no matter what happens going forward.
And
Our auditors indicate they can deliver an audit and meet the schedule also, right?
Yes.
And just for the general public and people listening, you know, if LGC don't like what they see, they're not going to approve it, and we're not going to get our project right. If our numbers don't justify themselves.
Right, right. they are there to be that watchdog for all local debt.
That's right.
Thank you, Amy.
Well, I think, there is no real downside for continuing it. I mean, we could get to a point there's no bidders, and then we'd have to redress it at that point in time, or get to the point that the bids are outrageous, and we'd have to address that at that point in time, I guess. But at this point in time, is it any downside of
Only
proceeding?
time, and I think.
Well, the time is making it worse. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, time and that cost.
right.
But I think you're right, we won't know the answer until we get the results. So if you feel like you're ready to see what the results are, we're ready to go out and get the bids.
What do you think, board?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think we should move forward.
Yep.
That's cool.
Okay. Sheila?
I think it's only gonna get pricier if we wait.
Okay.
Do I need to make a motion? I saw one in here.
I don't know if we need a motion for that. You want to take action on that?
Recommend motion to approve the resolution authorizing public works facility projects
All right.
and solicitation bids for construction and finance.
Entertain a motion.
Can I say so moved, since you just said it? So moved.
I'll
The,
second.
Second. So, got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Not hearing any. Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for all the work you guys put in. Thank you. Eric, I think you made a good case that we need it. You know, we're going to do public works. We need a place to do it from, and, you know, I think that's a good case you made, and, you know, we'll just keep our fingers crossed that, you know, you'll do a good job in helping us find like, some bidders to
Come on,
kind of
Mark.
give us a good price.
We're relying on you, Mark.
So,
No pressure. No pressure.
yeah, and you know, we got some people we can call. We need to call some people too. I think I know a couple, so. Because a couple people I see the trucks running around town. You know, right? So that's good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Next item, moving along, making good time here. Town of Rolesville and Walbrook LLC Infrastructure Improvement Agreement and Capital Project Ordinance Amendment. And I think, Kelly, you're the only name on this item, so I guess that's yours then.
Sure, I'll lead, Mayor and Town Board, and then in the audience tonight is Austin Williams, also with Walbrook, who actually, this proposal is from their request. So if you remember, a month ago, we met and reviewed where we stood with the LAP project and where we stood with the pricing. And at that time, most all of the information was positive because we had the ability to find an extensive amount of matching funds through Campo that was able to cover the increase in the bid price that we were presented with, the low bid. And so we said that we were all ready to go pending a couple of conditions. And that was that the bidder was going to hold her bid, and that Walbrook, who was also a partner in this project, was able to bring forth their funds for this project. And after that session, we were informed that Walbrook needs some time to consider that increase in pricing that they had for their section. And after further time, they have come back and said that they have a maximum amount that they can participate, which is not the total amount of their share. And so they have provided a proposal of how to fund that. In the meantime, I do want to let you know that we have kept our bidder informed, we have kept our engineer informed, and so we're all kind of on standby. We're all ready to go. Campo is ready with their funding. DOT is ready to go when and if we say. But remember, there is a short time period of that bidder saying our bids will hold. And that is coming up towards the end of this month. So in order to accommodate that, Walbrook has proposed a maximum amount that they are proposing to fund, and I'll let Austin go through that a little bit more, but it really is kind of amending a couple of agreements, or changing a couple of agreements that we already previously approved with Walbrook. One agreement that you previously approved to do this project with them was roadway reimbursement agreement, which actually wasn't with them for this project, but was with part of their development. And that was to establish a bank of street impact credit, fee credits up to $481,000 that they could be used for their building permits. It was one of your agreements. The other one was the previous infrastructure improvement agreement was how we would implement this project, assuming that the project cost was going to be in that $3.5 million range, I think was going to be the cost of what we thought the Walbrook section was going to be. 3.3 million. So now we're back to Walbrook saying, here's what we propose, and they're proposing that the roadway reimbursement agreement would be terminated. So essentially, the credits that we were going to provide for them, they're building their Walbrook, would not be authorized, and all those fees would be paid by Walbrook. And then they would also have, we've changed the infrastructure improvement agreement to show a maximum amount of $4,269,663 that Walbrook would collateral or put forth to the project.
Say that number again.
$4,269,663.
So page 24, what we're looking at in our notes here, section 4 and section 5, is that somewhat changed a little bit, or is the numbers kind of add together somehow to come up with that, or?
You look at section 4,
Mm-hmm.
red line document, it calls out $4,269,663.16.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. In our agenda package, it says page 24. I don't know what it would say on your. Well, this is the capital budget ordinance for the town of Rolesville.
That's different.
Okay,
Yeah, we're talking about the infrastructure agreement,
okay.
the Walbrook commitment.
So this is what's coming up then, what I'm looking at.
That'll be a part 2 of this if you decide. to
Okay.
pursue this.
All right, I got you.
He's gonna tell you how to fund it.
Okay.
So the net result of that is that there's going to be some dollar amount, at least $750,000 that the town will have to carry to pay the Walbrook section immediately. Okay? So they are not, that 4.2 is not enough to cover the $5 million hard costs. We know that the bid includes a bid and the engineering oversight for the Walbrook section. So about $775,000 is short, essentially, for lack of a better word, by Walbrook on their participation in the project. And so if you are interested in doing that, and helping assisting this and making it occur, we're recommending that you would allocate $500,000 of your street fees towards that part of the project, or reallocate it in the budget. And that money is going to come back, so essentially what he's done is not taking it during the project, but you're going to get that over time as the project gets in, and we're saying you spend it immediately or over the next 2 years, of course, the next 2 years, out of our funds to help offset that cost. And then another $250,000 would come from the general fund. And that's what's called for in the capital budget that Amy's going to review with you. Now, what that doesn't cover are, or is any change orders or potentially contingency changes that might occur during construction on that part of the project. What I just described to you will cover the bid, in engineering costs.
Okay.
But if there is a change order for some reason in that section of Walbrook's portion, this agreement calls for town covering that. And so that is not covered in there. You always estimate some contingency in any project. We've generally used 10%. So our estimate's anywhere from $500,000 to $600,000 potential contingency unknown, right? So those are unknown costs during this process. So tonight, we have a newly revised infrastructure improvement agreement for your consideration. We have a method of funding that, if you're interested. And we also have the developer present who can explain further their request. And also you have the opportunity to ask any questions.
Can you clarify for me, the street fees, the reimbursement, is that a part of the building as he builds the units that comes back in those fees, the normal fees? Okay, I just need to clarify that.
That can only go towards building new roads, so that's why the project.
It'll go back into the street fund. Gotcha. Thanks.
Would you like to hear from Mr. Williams?
Before we do that, one other clarification item. Section 18 of the IIA, which says assignment, that section has been deleted in its entirety based upon comments from Walbrook's lender and based upon the language of 160D, where approvals now run with the land. So town getting involved with assignments or assumptions as ownership of that property changes is not financeable on the lender side and is also probably questionably legal on our side. And so that had been agreed to last time. However, that had appeared only after the attorneys met to go to execution. So at the time you saw the draft last time, this was still in there. So the comparison is to the draft presented to the board rather than the execution version. So disregard section 18. That wasn't in the last version, and it wouldn't be in this one.
That's on page 6 of the actual document and page 12 of the online. I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
Section 18, I have it as page 5.
5?
It is page 6 in red lines.
On the red line, it goes to page 6 because of
Page
the.
6?
Yeah, I was looking at the clean version.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's up to the board. Does the board have any question for Kelly before we move on? Any other question? Austin, is there anything you want to say to the board? Anything you want to?
Good evening. I do appreciate consideration of this request. It's been a long road, no pun intended, to get to this point. And, it's a challenging time in our business. And, this road being a critical part of our project, probably the most critical part, it's why we showed up and assembled this project in the first place. Was really based on seeing where the Main Street project was going all the way back to the Main Street visioning process that I was a part of. But it's financially, even at $4.3 million, is a small piece of the project relative to the amount of investment that we have planned for public roads, including Walbrook Drive, Virginia Water Drive Extension, and Wall Creek Drive, which represents about $4 million of hard and soft costs in right-of-way. In addition to $1 million downstream sewer extension that's required of us by the city of Raleigh. And just to provide a point of reference to how crazy costs have gone, our Publix project, which was budgeted at $5 million, has come in over $8 million just for the on-site horizontal costs. So the $4.3 million, which the math makes sense in the way that Kelly proposed it, in that we take the entire hard cost of the Fred Smith bid, subtract the $481,000 of transportation impact fee credits, and show that as a subtraction to arrive at 4.27, the math is quaint, adds up, adds up to the 4.269 million. But frankly, our process to find a number was driven by finding a breaking point to where our project was either financeable or not financeable. And, we had not envisioned that we would come to the table with the town of Rolesville and ask for help on overruns. But frankly, the only way we could get our road collateral, road letter of credit financed in advance of the financing for the rest of our project, which is not in place yet, was to come in with a capped number. And so we appreciate your consideration of the request, and we are eager to see dirt moving and really hope that the town will support us on this. This is what's required in order to get to the next level. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? I hate to put you on the spot here, but I think back a year ago, we was talking about your project, and I was thinking a number sticks to my mind, it was a $125 million project or something like that. Do you have an idea what your project is now?
Yeah, if you include the townhome investment, it's closer to $180 million.
So it's a $180 million project that.
Yeah, that's development costs.
Right.
Yes, sir. So, those investments will generate significant property tax value as well as keeping jobs and commerce in Rolesville. And, I think that the ripple effects will be huge for the economy of this town, and we're going to do it right.
Yeah, I don't remember where I got the 125. I may have read it in a Triangle Journal or something one time, but.
Yeah, that was without the residential. So $125 million is the commercial investment. I mean, frankly, where we've seen numbers, nothing surprises me anymore. So, I mean, I would think that 125, the same project that we had expected to be 125 is probably 140 today.
140.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Officer.
You're welcome.
I just had I spoke with Austin a couple of times and to Kelly, and my only concern was, which they both explained to me, was we're not capped at anything, so we have no idea what that number can possibly be. And that's the only thing that worries me. And there's nothing that, as a town, how do we hope and pray? I mean, I know there's a contingency built in, and I get it. And I really appreciate your transparency throughout this entire process, Austin. But that's my only issue.
One thing about being this is a Campo project is if it goes over, I guess it's a $21 million project, Campo's number. If it goes over that number, then we can always go back to Campo and they match 50-50 is my understanding. So, it's
Did
not
I miss that somewhere then?
Huh?
Did I miss that? Where was that at? I'm sorry.
It's just a policy they have.
Oh.
I don't know if we may have mentioned that before or not.
It's relevant to some level, because that's the entire project.
And we're talking about a small piece.
5 million of that part. Yeah. So if there's anything within that 5.5, or $5 million that goes over, then it's on us unless the entire project goes over.
Right.
Then
So-
we can go back and seek more money based upon the entire project.
So does that portion of the smaller portion of the project, do you wait until the project is completed to say it went over? Or does it only count for that smaller portion?
It will only count for the entire project to go back to Campbell.
I swear, that's good to know.
So if it turns out to be 25 million, we go back and
Oh, yeah.
they share it.
21 million and whatever plus $1.
Right.
That's good to know, Kelly, because I also spoke with Austin and I shared that same concern. And I also appreciated the way that you worked the numbers to be what I consider fair across the board.
So I'm really excited about the project moving forward, even with all the delays. So it's pretty
I'd like to
interesting.
hear from Amy how to do it financially, what is required to do this now. Right, Amy? You want to talk about the ordinance amendment? That we also, there's two.
That's the one I was looking at, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
There's two actions needed tonight. We'd love to have you act tonight if you're ready. One is approve the infrastructure agreement, and secondly, also amend the capital budget. And then that will allow us then to start working with the bidder, start moving forward once the collateral is put up, which I understand will be done next week.
So, Mayor, I believe you were looking at the capital project ordinance for the town of Rolesville. I don't know what page it is in your packet.
24.
So really, the purpose of this is just to show how the revenues are being reallocated, right? So if you look down, Section 4 lays out the amounts, the expenditure side of the project. It's sort of backward from how we usually do things. These capital projects show you the expenditures first. So if you go across the page, those first 3 columns of numbers are what you've already adopted, okay? And so what we're looking at is that 4th column. And you can see it's all zeros there under the expenditure side. So what that's telling you is that there's no additional, if you adopt this ordinance, you're not adopting any additional expenditures related with the project, okay? All we're doing is showing how the revenue streams are changing. So in Section 5, that shows you those revenue streams.
Can I stop you for just a moment? Mm-hmm. Can that be displayed on the board for the public? Because it's hard to talk numbers.
I know it is. It is.
And not have that up there.
I mean, if you give me a minute, because I'm going to have to go to the website and pull up the agenda, I think.
It makes sense to have
Yep.
that.
It's in the agenda. Yes, you.
What page did you say it was on, Mayor?
24 online, it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it doesn't want to go that way. Let's- There we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's fair.
that's much better.
Thank you.
Okay, so Section 4 is the expenditure side. These first 3 columns are things that you've already approved. So this is where these are already done. What we're talking about tonight is this last column that says 22, 23. So you can see in Section 4, it's all zeros. So what that's saying is there's no additional money expending for this project in terms of the cost of the project overall. What we're doing tonight is showing how the revenues are being reallocated. If you look over here to the far left, you see this 727. The way this grant fund is broken out is each section of is broken out with different numbers. So 727 refers to the LAP project. 729 refers to the Walbrook project. And then the 730 are those ADA ramps. It's a very small part of the project. So with this, you can see with the revenues, what we're doing is in this LAP portion is we're contributing another $500,000 from your reserve for street fees. And what that does then is it frees up $500,000 of your general fund transfer that's already going to that LAP project, okay? And so what we're going to do then is take that $500,000 and it's going down here to the Walbrook portion. So this 1296868 is made up of $500,000 that came from the general fund money freed up on the LAP side, and then an additional just shy of $800,000 from the general fund. Okay, and what this negative here is showing this is where we were showing the Walbrook contribution, the reimbursements. So this is showing how that expected reimbursement from what we adopted just a meeting prior, where we had anticipated it being the full cost. This just shows where it balances out, that that's going down and it would be supported by the general fund. Does that make sense? It's a little complicated, but
I like your pictures better,
I know.
but I got you, I follow.
Yeah, but so in the end, again, at the end, there's no change. It's still zero at the end. All we're doing is showing that the source of those revenues is changing.
Good.
Thank you, Amy.
So,
Wait.
if I'm thinking about this right, so Walbrook won't get any reimbursements from standpoint of impact or this capital street fees. They won't get any credits. We gave them some to start with, and then they given the other piece of it. Yeah. So really, it doesn't show that plane here.
Because this is funding the LAP project.
Right,
That will be, that will occur over time as they pay.
right.
The budgets, future budgets.
Gotcha. I think I follow it. The total contribution from Walbrook is to 443 now?
4 million,
4.27 to round up.
still 4.9.
Right, so their contribution is the 4,331,973. It's the IIA amount plus what we expect for, I think it's street lights or something, which I believe is part of the IIA as well.
Oh, you're adding the street.
Our original IIA agreement had some costs embedded in the schedule for utilities and streetlights. The revised agreement you'll see on the red line clarifies that we will pay those directly, direct costs. So we are taking on that cost outside of this reimbursement.
So what's the total and what page is that on? Because now I'm confused. I was following. Because we dealt with the 4.269, now we're talking about 4.3. Where is that shown?
That's here. It's on this page,
729.
page 24.
Section 5,
See 4.3?
Section 9. I mean, 5.
Oh, okay, over
Section
here.
5.
I'm with you. I'm like, wait a minute, I was on the 4.269.
No, you're good. You're good. Right.
And just clarifying, for me, the 600,000, whatever it's called, conditional, what do we call it? Contingency, that's the word I was searching for. Contingency, that covers right away changes or any changes?
Or future changes, if I understood
Covers
it.
any changes within the LAP project, which is all within the right of
The right of way, okay, just need to clarify.
will not take any accounting of the private Walbrook.
Right. So in the event that something happens within the Walbrook development, that would fall to the developer to resolve, right, financially? Just clarifying that for the public. We're focused on the lab project right away
Yeah.
for the contingency. Thank you.
And then also, we don't see all the other streets that's being put in. It will be town streets, right?
And those are the responsibility of the developer for their site.
Right. So that'd be the,
Without any assistance,
right.
and we're still paying fees.
Yeah, so that'd be like the Virginia Water Drive extension,
Wall Creek.
Wall Creek extensions and stuff.
$3 million of roadways, including the greenway extension
Yeah.
to the project, all the way to the water tower.
So I do have a question for the developer, if you don't mind coming back up. So in the event that the board agrees to move forward with this as it's been presented to us, when do you foresee the new kind of timeline for this development?
For our portions of the project, right now, our best expectation is to close on financing in January.
January?
Yes, we've lost several months. The good news is that the collateral that we post to the town is as good as cash. And so if for some reason we were to lose some time, the fact that the Publix or other pieces may be delayed as we work to value engineer and solve the financing puzzle, you can walk down to the bank and pull the money out as you need it. So there's no strings attached whatsoever to our project moving forward, and the town being able to cash in the collateral when we provide it next week, subject to this vote.
So you anticipate the Publix project may move to 2024, realistically?
Mid-2024 opening is what we're targeting right now. And they're being a good partner with us. We're having similar conversations with them, and as is every developer working on a project that hadn't broken ground yet at this point. It's just a challenging environment. So we have full confidence that we're going to deliver a Publix store, but we're not there. We're not there yet on our financing.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But just to, I guess, clarify the Main Street piece of that, Main Street project, you will, if we prove this tonight, you'll go ahead and put the collateral up, the money up, and we can sign the contract pretty quick and get moving, and it's no other obstacles at all to keep us from moving on the Main Street. I mean, we'll finally got there, is that right?
We have finally got there when Fred Smith signs the contract.
And Dirk can start moving.
But they
when?
moved some trees, right? Am I seeing things?
That was utility,
Oh, that was
related to
utility
utility
movement.
relocations.
No, Duke's been moving stuff for some reason. Duke's been moving stuff up in North, is that?
That is an improvement project they're doing on our Main Street.
Oh, so that's nothing to do with, they
Yeah,
just,
Duke and Wake Electric have both been, Wake Electric in the Walbrook section has been moving
might be moving
utilities
again?
in advance, funded by us in advance of the road work.
Oh, gotcha. It's along with you.
And to your point, Mayor Curran, all the math and the reimbursement and the calculations are all based on what's happening inside the DOT right away. So our budget for internal roadways, which will be Rolesville, town of Rolesville roadways, our hard costs and soft costs are now up to $3 million. And that's not supported or subsidized by the town of Rolesville in any manner.
so total streets that will be turned over to the town is like 7 million something, is that right?
If you include the DOT work, yes, sir.
So is everything still west of Main Street? That's Wake Electric still?
Yes, so.
Everything on the other side?
Starts essentially right here.
Right.
Thank you, Austin, appreciate that.
Thank you.
So if you're ready, Mayor, the motion would be to approve the infrastructure improvement agreement between Walbrook and Town of Roseville, and also the capital project amendment for the last budget tonight, if you're ready to do that for you.
Okay. If there is no further deliberations, I'll entertain a motion.
Two separate motions, right?
Do you see a motion?
So I'm trying to
don't
find
think
it.
there
Can we
is one.
just, so moved.
Okay, I got a second.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Before you vote, I'll say a couple of things, because I was trying to do these numbers here. We went in this thing thinking 80-20 all along, and I was looking at the numbers, and it's like 22% the town would be paying for the whole street, whole Main Street, 22% by the time the federal government, so that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. We get what, 1.6 miles of Main Street.
That's great.
Yeah. So with the help of Campo and all, it's kind of worked out pretty good. So, and the second piece is when I add up the town's cost and the developer's cost, his is 4.3 million, ours is like 4.6 million. It's very close. It's almost like we're partnerships in it. Very close with the town, just a few $100,000 more than what they are. So it's very, very close. So, and that's for what it's worth. That's kind of my.
I like that nugget you shared about Campo and the sharing of that. I didn't know.
Yeah, any kind
That would make a big
of
difference.
overruns of the big number, it's a process that you can go back and get.
Good to know.
All right, any other discussion? If not, I ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Austin. I really appreciate your hard work during this, like you said, difficult times. And I think people that can make it through these times comes out a lot stronger than you think. So, good job and appreciate that. And
It is a partnership, and one day there'll be an ask from the town to me, and another day there'll be an ask from me to the town, and we're going to be at this for a while, so I appreciate everybody working together to make it happen. It's been very cordial and collaborative.
Trader Joe's next.
I appreciate, like I said, the transparency, the honesty when there were issues that came up. I just really appreciate that. You have no idea how much. It makes a big difference.
Once financing is hopefully done in January, when can dirt be moving, sir?
There's going to be so much dirt moving with the Main Street project that they're not going to be asking for more.
I know.
I think it'll be, a March shoveling the ground
Yeah. That's what I was thinking,
And we
timeframe.
will do that, right? We will do a groundbreaking.
Everybody will get a golden shovel.
We are so ready for that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, sir.
Well, I would just end by saying thank you, Austin, and we won't defeat it. We may even set back a few months, but we won't defeat it. So appreciate it, and we'll get there. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Dave's going to get it.
Okay, with that, we've been going an hour and a half. Y'all want to do one more or take a break?
Doesn't matter.
You okay? Everybody okay? That's
I think Meredith's going to have a lot of discussion on
yeah,
hers
it's a good.
based
It's
on.
I think it's a good transition point. We're going from
Yeah, Meredith.
from some of the big decision stuff to some of the cool stuff. So, not to say the other stuff's not cool, but especially Eric. I didn't mean that way. So, your stuff is cool too. I didn't really, but before we do that, let's take a 10-minute break. So let's come back at 7:30. So appreciate it. We'll be in recess at 7:30. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't. Order. The next item we have is LDO rounds, technical amendments. I just want to clarify something. I said something before the break about the last two things wasn't cool, and I didn't mean it wasn't cool. I think from a standpoint that Meredith's not going to ask us for a lot of money, I think that part is cool, right? That's the cool part, I think. It's not the project itself. I just want to clarify that with you. You're not asking for money, are you?
Not tonight,
Okay.
not tonight. Only asking for input, which is very valuable.
Which is
So you could
free.
say it's worth money.
Yeah.
So LDO round 3, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We really started talking about this at the joint work session with the Planning Board back in March. And we've figured out a lot of things. And tonight we're going to focus on 3 things that aren't quite figured out. So here we are at the work session. As long as all goes well this evening, we'll be at the Planning Board on Monday, September 26th, and then back with you all on Tuesday, October 4th for a public hearing. So the 3 topics I'd like to talk about this evening are the development processes. There'll be 2 we'll focus on. Landscape ordinance amendments with a focus on perimeter buffers, and clarification on wind signs and attention flags. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, and we're going to be using these terms. These are 3 different decision types that we talk about. Legislative, which is like a rezoning, so it's a decision by you all to amend or repeal an ordinance, and the public hearing seeks comment and opinion on policy change. A quasi-judicial decision or includes an evidentiary hearing that gathers competent material and substantial evidence to make findings of fact. And an administrative decision is really a staff decision, so it's all about implementing or enforcing development regulations such as the LDO. This is the table, slightly revised, that's in Appendix A of the LDO. And the 2 items highlighted in yellow are proposed changes. So just to go over this table briefly, the first section are legislative processes. So there are no proposed changes there. So our legislative processes are annexation, development agreement, rezoning, or text amendment, which we're going through right now. Our evidentiary processes include appeals, special use permits, variances, and vested rights or certificates of determination. And then administrative processes are staff approvals. We're proposing to make a change there, but include site plans, construction drawings, and plats. The first item I'd like to talk about are major subdivision preliminary plats. Our current process in the LDO is to have an evidentiary hearing with the Town Board of Commissioners. So staff is proposing to change that to administrative approval if a rezoning concept plan was previously approved, and I have some examples. And if not, it would be under the Town Board of Commissioners approval. So I have the zoning map here because you can see a lot of our property in Rolesville that has not been developed yet is that sort of golden mustard color, and that is residential low zoning. Residential low zoning allows up to 2 units per acre. Just in reality of development, it's very unlikely that Rolesville will develop at 1 or 2 units per acre into the future. Some of it will. My planning intuition says a lot of it won't. It'll be a little higher than that. This is an example of a rezoning concept plan. This was the preserve at Moody Farm that was approved either December or January. So this was the concept plan that was approved as part of a conditional rezoning. Let's compare that to the major subdivision preliminary plat that came in after that approval. So as you can see, it's the same number of lots. The roadway layout's the same. The greenway is shown as approved in the rezoning concept plan. What jumped out at me as different on the plat is seeing this little, let me see if I, pointer, these are, seeing this inset here that shows a parking area and the mail kiosk. That was not shown here. It was shown as open space and labeled on the concept plan. So as you can see, these are very similar. Coming before you in the next couple of months, you'll see this. This is Parker Ridge. I'm just showing you another example of a rezoning concept plan and the amount of detail you'll see in that. And this is 5109 Mitchell Mill Road. You'll see this in coming months also. And you can see the amount of detail that's in this rezoning concept plan. It's showing you the road layout, the lots, the types of things you would see in a major subdivision preliminary plat. So again, the proposed change is to make a major subdivision preliminary plat be an administrative approval if a rezoning concept plan was previously approved. So I'm saying why. I'm hoping to maximize everybody's time. And the other thing I've been thinking about is community engagement and focusing community engagement at one place and one time. I think we've observed some frustration recently with plans coming through at multiple points. And if we can focus and get what works for you all in our community at the beginning, then everything else should be smoother following that. Any questions about the
Yeah.
comments there?
Yeah. Do we have standards of what has to be in the preliminary plat? In other words, I can see what you're saying. The two that I saw look very similar. You know, it had the lots all on there, but I've seen some that didn't have much detail in it. So, you know, I kind of agree. If it's very detailed in the preliminary and they're not changing anything, then that's one thing, I think. If it's very vague in the preliminary and we're guessing what the whole thing is going to look like, that's a different story, I think.
I absolutely agree with you. If, like I said, if there is a rezoning concept plan that gives the same information that you would see in a preliminary plat, I don't think the preliminary plat coming back to you is necessary. If that information is not included in the rezoning, that preliminary plat should come in front of you so you can see that and there is that point of involvement.
So that goes to the planning board first?
Preliminary plat or rezoning?
The preliminary plat.
It does not. A major subdivision preliminary plat comes after a rezoning typically.
No, not in that order.
Right.
I'm saying like the little change, it was like a minor change. Who would pick up on that?
Staff would review it.
Okay.
The technical review committee and staff would make sure that the major subdivision preliminary plat was consistent with the rezoning concept plan as well as all the development regulations in our LDO. I was going back to this table for a minute. So can see the, just you were asking about where the planning board is involved. The planning board reviews and recommends development agreements, rezonings, and text amendments. Does not play a role in the preliminary
Play a
plat.
role where?
The planning board does not play a role in the preliminary plat or final plat.
Well, no, I wasn't saying that necessarily, but you notice, you showed, what subdivision was that you just, the preserve? You said
This one,
something
the
was-
preserve at Moody Farm,
Right.
yes, this is the rezoning concept plan that you all approved. Like I said, I can't remember if it was December or January. And this is the preliminary subdivision plat that's in review right now. You have
Oh,
not seen
okay,
this. I'm just
okay.
showing you some
Oh,
things I
okay,
have
thought
on
it came
file.
through. I'm like, wow, did I miss it?
Yeah, you haven't seen it. You haven't seen this
Gotcha.
one.
Okay,
You saw
thank
it.
you.
I mean, it looks the same, so you have seen it.
Right.
But not in this form.
So what would justify a major change, like a road change or a layout change? What would cause it to not be administrative for approval?
I would say if a conditional rezoning did not take place before the major subdivision preliminary plat, and we don't know what that layout is. So you all can have some confidence in what the layout is and how things are connected.
Okay.
I believe the way the LDO is currently written, the concept plan, if submitted as part of our rezoning, that is binding upon the developer.
Okay.
So if there are no details, then there's nothing to bind the developer or the property owner, not necessarily a developer. And so you have that information. But a change in the concept plan, a material change in the concept plan, would essentially put the applicant back into a rezoning amendment.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that works. I mean, obviously, like we see something and then 6 months later we see it again. And by then you don't know what you've talked about, what you've agreed to and everything else. You're doing it from square one again. It's a mess, so, yeah.
Sure. And I think focusing on the rezoning concept plan in the legislative environment, it gives our community more opportunity to voice their concerns and opinions and ideas.
So the only other question I'd have is, I guess, if somebody brought something in and we said, we don't really like that, you need to change the greenway to this or the this to that, would it come back, how does it come back again then?
I would
Because it wouldn't be specific. I mean, if we were like, you need to move the greenway like a little bit and make it look better or something. So how would that affect that?
I would hope that we wouldn't approve the conditional rezoning with the concept plan until everything was worked
Okay.
out and it was how we wanted it to be.
Okay. Okay.
The board in the past has also addressed that with conditions. So adopt the application as presented with the condition that the greenway exit out onto X road.
Okay.
You have done that in the past.
Okay.
Have we ever done it twice? Where they would make that change and come back and then something else cause a little
If the board
change?
took action and voted, then the rezoning would have happened. The only way it would come back would be, as Ms. Gruber suggested, if the board simply continues the meeting,
Right, okay.
allows time for the developer to physically change the picture, and then come back and vote on the zoning case. But you have certainly done it in the former way, and you could do it in the latter.
But which is the safer way, to have them just go back versus the conditions? I mean, would the conditions ever be such that it would change something else in the plan?
I can imagine the wisdom of the board choosing different solutions to different problems based upon how severe they are.
Any other comments or questions on this one?
I like continuations. So I think we make rash decisions sometimes and then, yeah, we don't have all the details, and then when questions come up, there's no answers 3 or 4 months later when they come back,
Sure.
so. Utilize the continuance if we can't define all the conditions. But I'm fine with it.
Okay.
But I know the last meeting when we were having questions and we get I'm not sure, let me look that up. Not only do we forget, everybody forgets because we haven't seen it in a while. And I think that's not a fair process to the public nor to the, the process.
So
Kind
that's,
of a waste of time. Isn't it?
that's why I was asking that question too.
was out of my mind.
Continuance are better sometimes.
Great. The next proposed change is with special use permits. So right now, the process in the LDO is that special use permits happen through an evidentiary hearing with you all, the Town Board of Commissioners. The proposed process would be to have an evidentiary hearing with the Board of Adjustment. So as we think about that and talk about that, I have some information from the LDO about what a special use permit is and what the different uses are in our use table that are special. So special use permits are uses that may be appropriate in the particular zoning district, but because of some situation, nature, effect, special consideration may be required by the town. So there are 6 special use permit review standards in the LDO Appendix A. They're similar to the findings of fact from the UDO that we've all gotten used to. Having being conforming with the town plans, looking at traffic and congestion, public health, safety, welfare, and compliance with the LDO. So in our LDO, the principal use table, there are about, I think I counted 69, 70 different uses. And out of those, 25 of them are special uses. So that's a little more than a third. And the items that are special uses are not necessarily special uses in every zoning district where they're listed in the table. It may be all of the zoning districts where they're listed, or it may not. So here are like The only two residential special uses that are listed are a live-work unit in residential high and a residential care facility in office and professional. Residential care is allowed in some other districts. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I can look if anyone wants to know. So the special uses under our civic uses are cemetery, college, correctional facility, cultural facility, and industrial and business and technology, daycare and social services. The special uses that are listed under commercial are on this slide. Adult business is a classic special use. A couple of note, I wasn't sure if you all would be comfortable giving these to the Board of Adjustment or not, would be like shopping center in the town center, activity center, or neighborhood center. Something like that might be something you could want to keep or not. Hospital is the only office and medical special use listed. The industrial special uses are here: flex space, fulfillment center, junkyard, landfill, recycling facility. Some of those are high impact. So again, the proposed process is to have an evidentiary hearing with the Board of Adjustment. And why? Focus your time and effort on policy, zoning, and development regulations, and let the Board of Adjustment go through the special use permit review standards and any other use standards that may be listed with those uses following the use table in the LDO.
What I want to make sure of that, I like that proposed change, but what I want to make sure of is that there's some type of checklist, because I hear you, but depending on, I don't know, level of, I don't want to say commitment, but level of someone's indulgence, I just don't want to see things go by the wayside. And I saw you say comply with the LDO, but there's also the comprehensive, the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Because we've had developers come and kind of pick what they're going to adhere to and try to get away from other plans. But those types of things would be of concern to me. But I like the proposed change.
Meredith, can you go back to the one where you said that we may want to consider that one? That was that one.
Yes, this one. I wasn't sure how you all would feel about the whole shopping center piece. However, with a lot of these special uses, at the point these would come into play, you likely would have seen a conditional zoning with it already.
That's what I was going to say.
So it
we
could
would
be
have
the same
already
kind
approved
of.
the zoning
Right,
type.
right.
It's just them making sure that it aligns with what it's supposed to align with.
Okay.
Is that right?
That's right.
So what is the electronic gaming operation? How does that-
Electronic gaming like what is it?
Is it
I've never
gambling?
played one of those things before, but it's like those
Gambling?
computer skills games. It's,
Okay.
Yeah, you don't see many of them no more. They used to have them everywhere.
they're only allowed as a special use in general industrial in our LDO.
So I'm saying, is that gambling? Or no?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, it's what's the latest? It's illegal in most places, I think, right now.
Because I see it in Raleigh all the time. I see it in Lewisburg.
Each electronic gaming device is judged on its own. Most of those have been determined to be a game of chance and thus gambling, although there have been others that have not, and there are currently pending appeals.
Okay, so by us having that on there, what does that mean if somebody comes forward? They would just go through this process?
Actually, I've had an inquiry recently about an electronic gaming operation, and the person wants to put it in a shopping center that is zone commercial, and I said, this isn't going to work because of the zoning, and one of the use standards in our LDO for electronic gaming is that it has to be a certain distance away from residential areas and schools and parks, and this particular location is within a few hundred feet of a park, so that does not meet the use standard in the LDO. So I suggested they find a spot that's already zoned general industrial and then go for the special use permit from there. But I haven't heard back from them. Does that answer your?
It does answer my question, but it brings up another question.
Okay.
So, is any municipality able to say no, period, to electronic gaming? Based on the legislation that's going on right now?
Can there be a strike through? No, I'm joking.
Is the question, can the town outlaw certain uses entirely within the town?
Correct.
The answer is North Carolina has not yet answered that question, but it is something that comes up at town and county attorney continuing education classes all the time. I can tell you that there are small towns that have outlawed certain uses, either expressly or indirectly. I do not know of any larger cities that have tried to do so. Now, of course, if something's illegal, then you don't have to address it. It would be shut down by the police.
But it's not illegal yet. It hasn't been defined as illegal. So something like that comes before the board. How do we proceed with it?
So a gambling operation is illegal. Wouldn't matter whether we had it as a permitted use in residential medium density or not. I'm aware that there are some casual Friday night poker games occurring within the city limits, but we don't have to expressly preclude illegal things. There are, however, parties who have alleged and have been successful in the courts that their particular gaming device was not gambling, in which case, rather than gambling, it was a game of skill.
So it was all in the verbiage on how they presented it.
Everything is.
The lawsuits have been highly technical and highly detailed regarding everything from the mechanism to the way folks receive the pleasure or enjoyment of the game they've engaged in, whether that's money or other things.
Yeah, we've had one in town before.
We did by Food Lion.
Yeah, and with the change in the law, I think some of them become inefficient in operating or something. They couldn't manage their business no more. And you don't see as many as there used to be for some of the rules changes. But I think back then we regulated some of it by having you had to have a license or permit, and I think that's been done away with. So
Correct.
I think we had a fee per computer in those places.
That's correct. The General Assembly has made clear that with every round of legislation that it's the intent of the General Assembly to outlaw games of chance. Gambling in all of its forms seems to be the majority's wish. However, there certainly in this session of the General Assembly was an effort to carve out a safe harbor for those particular games that would not be considered gambling. In which case, if that were the case, it would make sense for us to have a permitted use somewhere within our community for it, unless the town wished to go the route of trying to expressly exclude non-gambling gaming establishments.
But what were the parameters? It couldn't be so many feet within a school, park, or residential?
Yes, let me pull it up and I will make sure I get it just right.
Was it like 1,000 feet? 5,000 feet? Can we change the feet?
Or you want to change it less
Yeah,
than 5,000?
I was thinking adult businesses one time in the industrial. Only place you could put it was industrial, but that may.
Yes, but it also has some separation requirements. There can, you can't have one adult business within 2,000 feet of another adult business. I remember that one.
So, and my next question is about the adult business because what is the definition? As rated G as you can be, please.
Let me answer the electronic gaming question, and then I'll
Okay,
jump
yes,
to the
fine.
adult business one. So the standards for electronic gaming, it has hours of operation, and it has quite a few standards. Only operated on the ground floor of a building. You can't have covered windows, no loud noises. There has to be an adult on the premises. There's no more than 20 machines. No alcoholic beverages can be consumed on site. This is what I found before. The establishment must be a minimum of 500 feet away from any building used as a dwelling. And it also must be 1,000 feet away from a religious institution, school, daycare, park. And I think this one was within a few hundred, or this request was in a few hundred feet of a park. and you can't be within 1,000 feet of another gaming operation. So with those types of distance standards, it actually makes it kind of difficult to find a place for one.
Yeah, why the 500 feet versus 1,000? Why aren't all of them 1,000 or more?
I am not sure.
This seems
That's, I'm not sure who wrote this section, just from my experience dealing with various ordinances before. The 1,000 feet is pretty common
That's
for a
what I was
distance to
thinking.
separate.
Can it be changed? Can we change that?
Sure, you can change that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Just keep it
Does
consistent.
it be changed? No, you don't want, wait, let me make sure I'm saying this right. So if it's 500 feet, it's this far. If it's 1,000 feet, it's this far. So I guess you want it to be less, right?
But
No, you want it to be
you want them
more.
all,
More.
you want them all 1,000 feet.
I want
Just be
5,000.
consistent.
Okay,
But yeah.
Yeah,
miles.
that we can slip that one in. That'd be really, very easy to slip
Yeah.
in and make that,
And it keeps it consistent.
sure.
As far as the Raleigh
I just-
border.
see, that's what I was trying to figure out, how is that when you say 500 to 1,000, like, so
Between-
600, so if it's 500 feet and somebody's 600 feet, they can go in that location. EGAT, okay,
And then you were asking about adult business. To make sure. Any establishment featuring an activity that excludes juveniles and caters exclusively to adult-oriented uses such as books, adult films, and adult novelty items. It excludes massage parlors.
excludes massage parlors? How does that happen? Okay, what was before massage parlors? Oh, I know what I was gonna say, so, this was brought to my attention by somebody else in a different town.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the store, but I know it's not Spencer's, but it's something like a Spencer's, but where they sell all the adult products in the store,
Sure.
from lingerie to everything else they have.
One that's in a normal mall or like an,
On the street.
or like a
uh,
freestanding,
yeah.
like Adam and Eve kind of?
Yes.
Okay.
So how does that
work here?
How does that fall into this category?
Aren't those novelties?
Yeah, that would be an adult business and would have to, would be a commercial special use and would have to meet standards.
Okay.
Let me see, this one just has,
You know why? Because
This
there
one
always
has to
seems to
be-
be something that sneaks by us, like, oh, it doesn't
this one
fit
has
in here.
2,000 feet away from a place of worship, school, daycare, park, et cetera.
2,000?
I like that 2,000. That's a good standard. Everything 2,000.
Looking at adult uses.
Does that answer your questions
We can say
about
adult
adult
business, not adult
businesses and
uses.
electronic gaming?
No, I'm just looking at the adult businesses versus adult uses,
Okay.
as long as it doesn't have that. You see anything on that list for adult uses?
So you said adult business versus adult
Yeah,
use?
well, not verse, as long as that adult business do not conduct adult uses.
Well,
I mean, if it's not in writing, you need to have everything in writing.
okay, I see what you're saying. So is it clear what you can and can't do?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so then, you said 18 or 21?
For an adult business?
Correct.
I am.
Even age.
18 is an adult,
I think you said adult,
yes.
right?
I was
She
just
said
wondering.
18.
It was 18, I couldn't remember, because I was thinking about the vaping stores and the hookah stores. Am I saying it right?
Hookah bars.
Huh?
Hookah bars.
Yeah, I was thinking that's adult use again, so that's 18, not 21.
As far as I know, since an 18-year-old is considered an adult.
Okay, no, that's good, that's good. That's it for me.
I think
Right.
we've exhausted that topic. I like the 2,000. If you want to change that 1 to a 2,
Okay.
I don't think we'd be opposed.
All right?
That's what I was trying to figure, is it 500 you're trying to get or further? Definitely.
Space Mount.
Make it a mile.
All right.
Thank you, Meredith.
I missed that, sorry.
Oh, I said thank you.
Oh, certainly. The next item has to do with perimeter buffers. And I was thinking perimeter buffer, I think, is a little bit of a misnomer. I see what our traditionally called perimeter buffers more as border buffers or neighbor buffers, because a perimeter buffer it doesn't go around the entire perimeter of a site because you have your streetscape buffer along the street. So the perimeter buffer is what is going in between two different parcels or two different developments. So right now in our LDO, perimeter buffers are required between all developments, and all of our perimeter buffers include a fence or a wall. And I'll show the pictures of those in just a moment. So the proposed change is to eliminate perimeter buffers between parcels in the same non-residential zoning district and add a new landscape-only buffer type. So in our LDO, there are 4 buffer types, type 1, 2, 3, and 4. Type 1 is 10 feet wide and includes a 6-foot tall fence and landscape materials. Type 2 is 15 feet wide, again, includes a fence and landscape materials. Type 3 is 25 feet wide and includes a 6-foot high wall. And type 4 is 50 feet wide and includes a 5-foot earthen berm and a 3-foot wall on top for 8 feet of visual separation along with landscape materials. So this is our buffer table in the LDO. And you can see that there are buffers, like I said, required between everything. So if you're looking at, I still have my red thing, here's general commercial. So you look at your zoning district and what you're next to. So if you are developing in general commercial and you have to figure out what kind of buffer is required next to your neighbor who's also general commercial, you go over here, and it's a buffer type 1. So that was the 10-foot wide buffer with a 6-foot tall fence. And I mentioned that to you all before when we first started talking about this, and I said, for example, you'd have to put a fence between Bojangles and the new dental office that is coming in. My opinion, not ideal, not great site design or a visual experience or even like an emotional experience, mental experience going into a community. You wonder why would there be all these walls and fences around you? That could, my opinion, not great design. So in this buffer table where there are red circles, this is where I propose to eliminate buffer requirements, so have a not applicable in that area. So it would be no buffer between general commercial to general commercial, commercial highway to commercial highway, office and professional, business technology next to business technology, and industrial next to industrial. And then where I have the green circles, this is where I'm suggesting that we do a landscape-only buffer with no fence or wall. So for example, a residential low neighborhood next to a residential low neighborhood, landscape materials only between those two neighborhoods. This is where it says this is residential medium. This is supposed to be MH, or manufactured housing district. So if you had a manufactured housing neighborhood next to another one, just landscape materials. Commercial highway next to general commercial, landscape materials. So again, get rid of the buffers between the exact same zoning district and non-residential zoning district, and then have landscape materials where these green circles are. So what do you all think about getting rid of some of the fences and walls?
I have a question. I just can't remember. What was the separation between the daycare and CVS? And I forget what's behind it, and townhomes maybe? What was that again? I know there was a lot of conversation about it.
I think that predated me. Let's see, but I've walked by there many times.
Right. So was it, but what
Is there
was it,
something-
though? Was it just landscape or was it fence?
Fence, I think.
Or there wasn't a fence and we
It was
thought
on-
that there should have been a fence, I think.
But there was only a partial fence though, right? Not, it was just separating maybe where the townhomes were gonna go?
It's the daycare from whatever's behind it. That was the concern.
Okay, so a daycare, let's just say a daycare next to townhomes, so.
And next to retail.
And next to retail. So the CVS is at the corner, so that is likely general commercial. And then the daycare could fall into a couple different spots. And then the daycare next to residential, you said townhomes, so that would be residential high. So let's look at residential high next to general commercial would be under this a type 2, which is 15 feet wide with a 6-foot tall fence.
So residential, you would still have it?
Oh, yes, between,
Residential-
absolutely. You want us to have
I-
that separation with residential and commercial.
I think this is one of those unintended consequences. Because you take where Bojangles is at, you know, that it's supposed to be one big but one big commercial center, and they divide it up in lots. And now
Right.
you're saying every lot has to have a fence between it. It doesn't make sense.
You gotta go in and out of traffic.
No, it'd be like putting a fence between, you
Right,
know.
I'm saying you gotta go back out on the
Yeah.
street to get to the other business.
And that's another point is we want them to connect,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We don't wanna have
It
to
makes it
go
more
back.
walkable if there's some connection. Maybe I want to get my teeth, well, go to Bojangles and then get my teeth cleaned.
Right,
Kind of like CVS and, what's this?
car place.
Yeah, the auto parts. You can flow between. Yeah, you can kind of go in that loop.
Yes, walk between the two.
Yeah.
Run over CVS while you're getting your,
Yeah, I do think that was an unintended situation.
sure, and that would be my guess on what happened here. Although I was I was practicing explaining this to my husband, and my husband's in the fencing industry. He's like, I think it sounds great. So, no.
Depends on your perspective.
I've seen places like that, but like you said, you know, if you want to go to the restaurant next door, you have to go back out in the road or jump the fence or walk around the fence or something. you know.
Yeah, what if we became like the fence jumping place? That would be good.
So wait.
And this really came bad in COVID because, you know, we'd travel, you'd pull in a restaurant and they'd be closed or the inside be closed. And then one right next door, we couldn't get over there without going back in the road and get over there. So, I don't know why you would want to do that. I mean, I could see it for the shopping, I mean, the business itself, it may want to have it, you know, their own little identity so people won't be in there, but it doesn't make it good for the general public.
So how does that even work if you're not looking at a buffer like that, but you're looking at more of a sidewalk? You know how sometimes you can't go through not because of trees or a fence, but because they built the sidewalk up. So their entire property is surrounded by a sidewalk, so you can't go up on the sidewalk to go to the next. How does that, what am I,
I think it sounds like you're talking about good pedestrian circulation, and that is something that our technical review committee and our staff looks at when we're reviewing plans. So just making good decisions with design that people can walk, you know, along the frontage of a site and within a site, and then connecting to other
right,
sites.
but you can't connect without going to the street because they built up the sidewalk.
Well, see,
That
we
curb.
used not, if you ever go to Sonic,
Yes.
next time you go to Sonic, you'll notice it's designed to go
connect.
either way. I mean, you go either way. I mean, whoever builds the side, it should be
No, I
able to
think you
connect.
can go one way, but you can't go the other way. One side is closed off, like with that sidewalk I was referring to. But one side is
By
open.
the drive-through.
Right. You can't go through that
Yeah,
way.
you can't get through the back of it. But you can go the other way, I know what you're saying.
Yes, you can go the other way. So how does that fit into this? It's not a buffer, so it may not even be relative to the conversation, but it still does prevent that connectivity.
Sure. It sounds like what you're talking about, like I said, is good pedestrian circulation and good plan review, so we make sure when things are coming in that they're connecting to other things like they should.
Oh, I thought you meant something else when you said that initially.
Okay.
You said good pedestrian circulation, like get out and walk.
Oh,
That's what I
good
was thinking
pedestrian
you were
circulation
saying.
is a well-designed pedestrian circulation.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, we don't really require it though then. They have to volunteer to do that. I mean, we don't.
I think it's intentional sometimes.
We can require it.
Oh, I
Yeah, I'm
love
talking about
that
now.
stuff.
In our code today, we don't require it. I was thinking we used to, but
I will need to do a little research on that, and that is something, if I don't feel like it's strong enough, it's something we do comment on plans now, but if I don't think it's strong enough, that is absolutely something I'd like to strengthen and as we move forward.
I think that's a great idea, because I love to be able to go somewhere and go through the parking lots instead
Right.
of having to go back out.
well, it keeps traffic off the street.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to do that, yes.
You don't have to come back every time.
Will the Main Street Improvement Project impact some of this? I don't know why I keep thinking about that, but the sidewalks are being torn. Will that help some of this?
Oh, I'm sure it's going to make Main Street look better and function better. And again, that's about the street frontage, and then the perimeter buffers, we're focusing between the developments, so back off from
Right, but
the
will the
street.
right-of-way from the streets be corrected? Can we add things there? I don't know, I'm just asking. Only because it's Main Street. And I'm thinking about those businesses that are there already.
No, we're going to not touch the sidewalks.
We're not touching the sidewalks. I thought
Other
we
than
were.
putting new sidewalk in places, right?
What's that?
Some new places will have sidewalk.
Correct, few places, but what's existing will not be,
Right.
So just the road and the median, not the right-of-way areas.
except in the Walbrook section.
Gotcha. All right, just curious.
It sounds like getting positive feedback to what's shown on this table. So I will move forward with that. So again, the proposed requirement is to eliminate those perimeter buffers between parcels in the same district. And I think we've covered the why, unintended results with fences and walls everywhere, and landscaping between uses can look and feel really nice also. So the last item, I thought we'd be tired of looking at words, so all I have with it is a picture. So in the LDO right now, on one page, it says wind signs and one page, wind signs and attention flags are listed as a prohibited sign type. Then on another page, it says it's an exempt sign type. The LDO also says if there is a conflict in the ordinance that is it more strict or stricter item applies. So that means I would read it as the wind signs, attention flags are not allowed. But I wanted to make that clear and check in with you all in case people like the wind flags, attention signs.
I'm going to say personally, the reason why those signs are there is because we're all sitting in a bowl here. And that was the issue because there were really tall trees that have since been cut down. But when you drive by, you kind of miss what's in that bowl. And that's why those signs are there. But there may be other businesses that are closer up on the sidewalk where they really don't need that. So I can see where there would be an argument as to how come they can, we cannot. So personally, let me say, I don't have a sign there, but I fully understand why those signs are there. And that was a complaint that they gave to the landlord. You can't see us, we're hidden, and we need to bring attention into the bowl.
And in this picture, both this wind sign and the sandwich board sign, not allowed as shown here.
Correct.
But yeah,
Also,
But
some of the churches use those wind signs on the
Yes.
weekends just to show people, hey, this is where we are in the shopping center or wherever they are in the schools or what have you. So I could see that use.
So again, unintended consequence, there's a dip there. So are we hindering our businesses from being successful because people don't see them when they drive by? I have often wondered when I run across from Greenwell, I get in the crosswalk most of the time, from Greenway Beer and Wine across to the town hall, there's a dip, there's a lot of bushes, and you can't see. You can't see the businesses. So is there something we can do to remedy this? Because I feel like this is an exception to the rule possibly, but can there be lower landscape buffering? I don't know,
Okay, so it was cut down.
so that it's visible.
It was cut down, but it's still not enough.
Right, but I'm saying if you put more ground cover than something that's just going to grow right back up. Just saying. We don't want to hinder our businesses from being successful. That's
Sure.
oxymoronic.
And I will say somebody recently left because that was one of their issues as well. They stayed for a couple of years, but they're like, you can't see. If I put a sign out, I'm going to be reminded I can't have my sign there. And even that, I'm not sure what you call it at this moment, but the little kiosk with all the little signs in it.
The marker.
Yeah, like when you go
This
by
sign
there,
right
you're
here?
not going to
Can't
see
see
every
it.
one of those in there. So it really would be a disservice to the businesses in that little bowl if we don't have taller signs.
Okay.
And what you say, Sheila, I think there might be some pushback from, just my opinion, because those trees do grow really tall.
Right.
And
that's
they
what I'm
were
saying.
extremely tall at one point, and a conversation was had, and they were cut down. But they're growing back up, and they're full. And I think they stay green most of the year,
Are you talking about the trees or are you talking about the shrubs?
the shrubs.
Okay.
The trees too, both of them.
Yeah, both are problematic.
Okay, I'm just throwing something out there. What if every business in this shopping center put a wind sign out along the sidewalk?
That would look nightmarish.
Yeah, it would.
I understand your point. It looks very messy, but at the same time, we want our businesses in Roseville to be retained and successful, right? So I just think we need to figure out something.
There's no regulations on those wind signs now?
There's a contradiction in the LDO right now. One page it says they're not allowed, and one page says they are at a particular size.
So I know at one time, years ago, we would allow them, if they come and request it for an event, like if you had a new neighborhood coming in, you want to draw attention to the neighborhood or something, we allowed them to put them up.
Grand opening, something temporary.
And I thought we would allow them to put it up like a day or something, and you could just put them up and leave them up or something.
It was more than a day to that, but that was more like real estate sales.
That was on weekends.
Weekend.
Yeah.
maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe the weekend.
And like you said, grand opening, you're gonna see some for grand closing,
Right.
because that's what's gonna happen if they can't advertise, so
I
it's a
think
tough
we
one.
need to probably have some rules around it, so everyone
Sure.
will have one. So
Maybe,
just need to figure out what's best for the businesses and the community
is
too.
this anything we would want to get more input on and bring back to another, don't worry about it in this round, let's do some information gathering and
Is this something
input?
we could help Michael to help us with? Maybe
Let's talk
to
about it.
businesses and.
It's a
Yeah,
tough
even
one.
if you regulated like distance between them, that way you don't have
Only
30
a
of
certain
them up there.
number
Yeah.
allowed at
Yeah.
one time per center, so we
Yeah.
don't have,
Like odd even? I'm just saying.
If you want to pull the bushes, we could put pollinator gardens there. That's fine.
So I was saying something lower.
that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? It would
Yeah.
be lower, and visually you can see it, but you're driving looking this way.
Sure.
You're not really driving looking, well, like, where is it? Right.
Before the board moves off of this picture, the permanent approved sign is in the background there. That's the sign that our sign ordinance speaks to. How big it is and what it looks like and where it is located. It is possible that if we revisited the sign ordinance, we would be able to satisfy the needs of our businesses better so as to no longer require the sign that is banned in many communities.
Which sign are you referring to?
In the background, you have the masonry sign with all the various tenants listed on it. That's the permanent sign. That's our sign ordinance, which is located in the LDO. The things in the foreground are violations of the LDO. Based upon the board's comments, it may be that the reason we have the things in the foreground is because the thing in the background isn't right.
But then that makes me wonder, because across the street, the one that has Food Lion and Dollar General,
Right.
that's much bigger than this one. So is that
see
put
that.
there by the landlord, landowner? Did he put that there? The town put that there?
Well, the town would not have put
No,
it there.
The owner put
So
it
he
there.
probably, so I assume that he chose the size and what he wanted there. So then how could we make that change?
The town sets the rules for its sign ordinance. If a particular property owner, in this case, your example, the landlord chooses to use a small sign, then the landlord should likely expect to draw lower rents from his tenants because they can't be seen. But I suspect, because it seems to come up a lot, often the sign ordinance is the reason that the temporary signs end up going up. Well, not temporary, but the permanent but should be temporary signs. How about that?
There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna add something to that. That marquee there does not contain enough spaces for all of the businesses
gonna say,
that are in this development. So that's why you see some of the, like the barbecue is off the hook, so they have their sign in there. The church does have one. Arise does have one. But there are some,
I can see your eyes, that it's more visible based on the
You have
colors.
to pay
and
extra.
that's why he did that, because of the colors.
I can see it.
But not everybody has, we're on the front and the back.
You have to pay extra for that?
You do.
I was thinking you did. So you have to buy your way on the sign.
You do.
So also, what about more signs along there, though? Like, not just at that intersection, before the intersection, further down this way.
So
that
another
show
shopping
everything it's in.
center
Yeah, I mean,
sign?
like,
I
because you
think
see
it's
something, you're like,
great.
oh, it's there, and then by the time you get to the intersection, you can turn in. Whereas you're gonna see it now, and it's too late, you've already gone past it, and you don't really,
And it's not really that big,
Right.
really. But, yeah, not all businesses are.
I would say for sake of time,
do another-
talk to Michael, and maybe Michael can do a polling of the,
Okay.
of
I
the
think that's a
things, say,
great
come up
idea.
idea, maybe they can come up idea how to police it, or come up with a better idea of how to regulate it,
Okay.
I mean, look at this, the town sign with their electronic billboard.
Okay.
That one's nowhere near that size. Like, what's the criteria? What's the size requirement? But that one's easier to see because it's
Right.
it's scrolling.
Well, thank you for your input this evening. It was very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Great, I'm glad.
Yeah. Cool. That was cool. Board procedures, this one ought to be fun.
This one will be quick. Since we
God bless you.
did a session during a prior work session, I had presented to the board some background concepts on board meetings and board procedures, and we called that part one of question mark. We didn't know how many of those sessions we would need to have or want to have. Since that day, I've had conversations with some of you, and thoughts are kind of varying as to whether that had any value, or if it did have value, where to go from here. And that's why the agenda item says discussion. The perception of the staff is that the board has been doing a very good job with governing itself and has sort of adopted many of the suggestions of the School of Government since the handbook was handed out. But we haven't adopted a policy, we don't have a manual for the town, and there won't be anything to hand to your successors at this time. And I don't know whether the majority of the board would want to have additional sessions, training, or have the staff provide a draft policy manual, a procedures manual, maybe together with a motions cheat sheet, something along those lines. But I am here to listen.
Yeah, I think that'd be the best way to do it, because that way we have something in front of us we can look at, and it makes more sense with a cheat sheet procedure kind of thing. I think that would.
I think all of the above makes more sense. More training, more cheat sheet, all of it makes more sense, because I think just because we sit on the board doesn't mean that we're aware, and doesn't mean that where do we go to learn? So I think all of the above, yes, check, check, check.
And also the league do training all the time. And they said we're welcome back anytime.
They do a generic training, I feel. It's a great training. I love
The one in
I love it.
December was different.
But it's not really as detailed as what you were saying, like, to be more detailed. It's generic, it's good, it covers a lot of things that we go through, but I really think that we need something more suited towards this board.
Well, I think that would be.
Addition to.
Well, I think the handbook or whatever would be a start.
Yes.
Like, that gets you a start, and then we could say, we need to have more discussions on this part. We need to have more discussions on this part,
Exactly.
what we're doing there. I think that it gives us an outline, I think.
Yeah, a standard operating procedure
Yep.
is what need to happen.
Well, the person upon whom a lot of this falls is Mayor Curran, so I don't know what his thoughts are.
I don't know if I got any or not. I've been around so long that we've done it different ways and different, I think from my personal feeling, from 20 years, this is a pretty good board. And I think we have pretty good dynamics. I think we respect each other and treat each other with respect. And to me, if we do that, some of this other stuff is not as important, you know. But I do see the need as we get more and more, and I'm looking at the agenda now, and we got to talk about it, because, you know, I don't think we're going to do 3 public hearings in December. So, you know, but that just says that, you know, we're going to get more and more busy as we get bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, we'll have to either go to longer meetings or maybe daytime meet or something. We have to do something in the future if we get more and more. That's why I think I like the idea of giving some stuff to the Board of Adjustments, like we talked about tonight, some of the simple things. But I do think we can probably get more efficient. And if we could just do that, I mean, I think that's the only thing that because I don't want to change the dynamics. I think we're a good board, we work together. I think we talk a lot, we say a lot of things. Everybody, you know, has input, and I don't want to do away with that. But if we could keep all that and be a little bit more efficient, I think would be cool, you know.
I don't think we should change anything like that. What I'm talking about is procedures. This happens, this is what happens, this, you know, I think procedure-wise, that's what I'm talking about. And I don't think, I think that would make us more efficient. Okay, you can make a motion here. Because when I first sat, it took me a minute to figure out, okay, when can I open my mouth and say, when's my turn to talk? Right. You know, so just coming on the board, it would be knowledge and information for us, even me, as long as I've been here, to be more prepared and to feel more confident in the procedures and how they move along. I mean, I've been here and I'm learning, and I'm still learning every day, and I've learned, but I think that would be tremendously helpful to all of us, I'm assuming, and especially to anybody new coming on the board.
Yeah,
Not to change the dynamics.
Yeah, I think if you had a general guide that said, hey, after we've listened to everybody, everybody's going to take their turns to ask questions.
Yeah.
That way we're not like, oh yeah, you have one, that you have one, that you have one. Like, we're not jumping all over the place. It's, you go through them, and if we have a second round of questions, go through them again, and we're done.
Yeah.
We're not just hitting them with 30 questions in one night and taking 2 hours to do stuff and asking the same questions over and over again just because. But yeah, I don't think, not set in stone, but a guide. And I think it is important for somebody coming on the board. I mean, people have elected that person to represent them. They should know how it's working and how they can speak out and ask questions and stuff like that too. So, yeah, I think just a general guide, I think would help.
All right, well, good discussion. Do you have any direction?
I think I do. And in some ways, this is a little bit, for those who are watching, this is a little bit how a closed session might go, right? I have received the instruction. I will tell you what I've taken from this is that we have both soft needs as well as the hard stuff, the nuts and bolts kind of needs. And we certainly did cover the softer items in the first session, but I did not get to the point of a handbook or I like to call it a cheat sheet. I've used it before for myself. And maybe what we could do is the next time this comes back as a topic in a work session where we have the procedures manual in your package, but we spend our time just going through the cheat sheet. And that cheat sheet could be both the parliamentary nuts and bolts, as well as Commissioner Sutton earlier today mentioned continuances. Like, let's have that on there so that when you are thinking, I'm not ready, but this might be okay, what do I do? And have that ready to go.
Let's use the terminology checklist rather than another one.
Oh, yeah. For you all, it'll be a checklist. For when I use it, it'll be my cheat sheet. There you go. Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. I think a lot of value. And I think Commissioner Austin is the one that kind of brought this to our attention to start with. And he's new on the board like you were, April, so, you know, trying to figure out things. So with that, I think it's been a good meeting. I want to appreciate everybody that has brought information to the board. A lot of good, a good discussion there. We got two things somewhat resolved, which was the Public Works facility bidding and the Walbrook Main Street project. I think Meredith got what she needed on the LDO changes. And then Dave's got some directions on the future boards. One more item, which is closed session. I will entertain a motion from someone for that one.
I make a motion that we move to closed session.
Second.
Is there something to read
We
or
need
just?
to, we need to number Dave.
Oh,
I
I'm
can-
sorry. I make a motion that we move to closed session to consult with the attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A3.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, I think Paul's second there, Madam Clerk. Any other for discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And at this time, we are in closed session. So turn off your mics if